And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And we are going to go back down memory lane. So hold on tight. Back in the days, if you don't remember, we had a conversation with a young lady here in Atlanta who was a whistleblower of a particular Fulton County DA, the Fani Willis that we've talked about before. And she talked about what was going on with Fani Willis and a grant and all of that kind of shenanigans. And there was just so much that happened, from going to speak to the Georgia Senate to being in the news and all of this. And then we just never heard anything else about it. Well, I thought it would be good for us to give you an update. So I have tagged our friend to bring her back on to talk a little bit more about what's going on, give us the lowdown on where she is with that, and why in the world has this been going on for so long. So ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, Amanda Timpson. How are you, friend?
Hey, I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for coming back on. Thank you so much for keeping us abreast of what's going on with you.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
the last time you were here, Amanda, the channel's grown, thankfully. So actually,
Congratulations.
thank you. Can you give us a little bit of an update? Who you are, what did you used to do, and why are you even here?
Sure. So my name is Amanda Timpson. I am formerly the Director of Juvenile Diversion for Fulton County District Attorney's Office. And I'm here because I did the right thing. I saw what I believe to be the misuse of federal grant funds, and I blew the whistle. And as a result, I was retaliated against, and I subsequently filed a whistleblower suit. And it's been almost 5 years. And so I've just been kind of working my way through the court systems and just trying to get people to understand what's going on in their backyard.
Thank you so much. Now, real quick, the juvenile diversion, is it fair to say gang prevention? Is that a good, amongst other things?
Under Paul Howard. So under the Paul Howard administration, actually, I was the Director of Gang Prevention and Intervention. But once Miss Willis, or DA Willis, came into office, she abolished that entire program, and then it was changed to the Director of Juvenile Diversion. So, but one and the same, essentially, mainly working with justice-involved youth, and working on the prevention side and intervention side and creating programs.
Love it. So, all right, let's talk about the misuse. So if I'm understanding correctly, Fulton County was getting monies from the feds to do things to stop the youth from doing youthful things, right? Stop from out here wilding out. And go ahead from there. Tell us what was happening with the funds.
Sure. So one of the grants that I blew the whistle on was an OJJDP, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention grant, for almost $500,000. That was actually written by myself and my coworker, Ian Moore, and our grant writer at the time, Michelle Henry. So we all collaborated and wrote that grant under Paul Howard. But the grant was not funded until Fani had already taken office. And so this grant was specific, very specific. It was for youth 13 to 17 who were gang involved. And so it was specific to location and obviously age, and then either you're fully known as a gang member or an associate or something like that. And I know a lot of people on your channel know a lot of that from the YSL trial.
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely.
And we were actually gifted I think it was an 8,000 square foot building in Southwest Atlanta off of Fairburn Road to be the Fulton County Gang Prevention and Youth Empowerment Building. And so our grant was really specific to programming out of that building.
Got it. So we couldn't just say, hey, you gave me this $500,000. We're going to go and buy gym shoes for a basketball team, or we're going to, anything that wasn't already specified in the grant. Is that fair?
No, that would not be applicable.
So if you had, well, let me ask you this question then. If you had specified that we're going to start a youth basketball league and that was in the grant, then you could have done that.
Right. But
For
you would have to specify very specifically, are you going to buy jerseys? Are you going to buy basketball?
right.
Are you going to buy sneakers? Like, what are you going to do in furtherance of that basketball league to ensure, or for the grant to pay it? It wouldn't
Got
be
it.
like, hey, I'm doing basketball league, whatever I want to buy for the basketball league. It would still have to be
Very
stipulated.
very specific. So it sounds like they were of course making sure the money was being used properly. It wasn't just like here's a whole boatload of money, just use it and tell us what you did with it. So it sounds like it was that. However, with the grant, I guess you didn't put in there that you wanted to buy computers and merch and swag and stuff like that. Come on, Amanda, you got to make sure you put the computers in the grant.
Right.
What was Fani trying to use the money for?
Well, let me go back a little bit.
Okay,
So Fani comes into office January of 2021. I believe it was January 18th of 2021. And by March, I sit down with a member of the leadership team who is over programs. And this person asks me to kind of like bring them up to speed on the scope of the grant. So I do that myself and my colleague Ian Moore. We worked together on this grant, and he
sure.
worked with me in the gang prevention program. And so we basically told him what the scope of the grant was. And then from there, he started saying, "Well, I want to do this and I want to do that." And I was like, "Hey." At that point, I wasn't too alarmed. I was like, he just doesn't understand. And so I felt like I'm the director, the project
Sure.
director on the grant, written into the grant. It is my duty to ensure that he understands. And so I was just like, hey, we can't do that. And it got to a point um, where that was not enough, that, hey, we
Okay.
can't do that. And so I felt that it was my duty to escalate it to DA Willis and to other people, Dexter Bond, DA Willis, and just kind of let them know, like, hey, these are my concerns. And it wasn't just the one grant. Unfortunately, it was multiple grants that I actually blew the whistle on. So, yeah.
Got it. So you blew the whistle because funds weren't going to be used properly, which would have been violating the grant.
Right.
Well, what would have been okay? So let's just say you had let them use the money inappropriately to buy things that were not in the grant. What would have actually happened?
Well, that would be misuse of federal funds, and I am listed as the project director. So if anybody is going to be held accountable, it would have been me. And so obviously I have a family. I wanted to make sure that the funds were used correctly because I don't particularly want to go to federal prison, but also in addition, like, it is for the youth, and we want to make sure that the grant is being used in the way that it was applied for, in the way that we got it, because there's a need in Fulton County, and that need needs to be met with the funds. So yeah.
Okay. So you blow the whistle. I'm sorry. So you see that they're about to start swiping cards in the places that they're not supposed to be swiping cards, using the funds in ways they wouldn't, and you would have ultimately been held accountable for it, even though it was somebody else that was using it. So you blow the whistle, and what happened? You did the right thing, and then it didn't go right.
So originally, and my hope and my just what I thought was going to happen was that I was going to let DA Willis know, and she would be like, thank you, I'll handle this or whatever. But that wasn't exactly what happened on the day. And this is all verifiable by documents. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is, all of this information is in court documents.
Wait, time out. Can you show us the folder? Go on, show us the folder.
Oh my gosh, the binder. The binder
show us the binder.
Hold on, let me get the binder.
If you don't know, Amanda has she's known because she kept copious notes. And there's a joke when she spoke with the Georgia Senate about this binder that she has full of notes.
This is the binder.
That's the binder. Oh no, you knocked the lights out. It didn't darken the light. That thing was so big.
It was so big.
The joke is that Amanda has the binder, and when we were talking,
we're gonna put it right here.
That's crazy.
Yes.
I would tell you to put on the shelf behind you, but I don't want it to
It
cause the
might
shelf
break
to
the
collapse.
shelf. Exactly.
So she kept copious notes. So when she says she has an email, a text message, a memo, I'm going to go on a limb and say she has a copy of it. Anyway, continue, Amanda.
Yes. And so, wait, can you go back to the question? Sorry.
What actually happened after?
Yeah. So I originally I went directly to this person that I told you that was the director of programs. And, I told him multiple times, like, hey, we can't do that. We can't do that. And it started off with like stifling of work. I was supposed to do stuff. I turned it into him. He's supposed to escalate my work. Now he's saying like, hey, the work hasn't been done. And I'm like, yo, I turned that into you 2 weeks ago,
Right.
So it started off like that type of retaliation. Ultimately, I started being taken off of things, taken off of like program duties, leadership, taken out of leadership meetings, et cetera, et cetera. Ultimately, I went to HR where I shared my concerns, and then I went to Dexter Bond. And when I went to Dexter Bond, I told him my concerns. I knew Dexter from the last administration. We worked together, so he was very familiar with me, my work ethic, and so he was like, "Hey, this isn't okay. Let me get a meeting with you and DA Willis." But what I told him when I went to him was, hey, based on what he's doing and his actions right now, I have several lawsuits that, attempted wrongful termination, retaliation, all these things. So I know in the text, it literally says, I know if she knew, she wouldn't be okay with this. Speaking about DA Willis.
Correct.
So he says, hey, you have a meeting with her today at 3. So I go in that meeting and I go to tell her like about the misuse. And I told her, hey, I have, concern that there's misuse. And she cut me off mid-sentence and demoted me.
Oh, wow.
So I went from the director of juvenile diversion to a file clerk. And so for the next several months of my tenure there, I was putting things in alphabetical order, filing documents from 1993 and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so very like things
Menial
that
tasks.
did not intersect with the role that I was hired for at all.
Gotcha.
There was times where they put me under several different supervisors. There were times where I would come and thousands of documents that I had put in alphabetical order were in disarray. There was,
Oh, wow.
my office was confiscated. I was taken off the website, which these are all vanity things, but my laptop was confiscated. And so I was unable to work from home, and I was put in an area that was being rehabbed. And I have chronic asthma and reactive airways disease. So I started getting sick. So it was just constant acts of retaliation to
Gotcha.
where it made being at and going to work really hard every day.
I got you. So you blew the whistle. You let Fani Willis know, and the retaliation demotions started coming fast and furious. From her standpoint, from her viewpoint, why do you think she was doing that? Why do you think she responded to you? Because from everything that we've said before, everything I've read, you seem like you wanted the best for her. It wasn't like, let me go and tell the Atlanta Journal-Constitution how terrible a person you are, or let me go to the J-Wit podcast and dunk on Fani. You sound like you were actually in her corner. So why do you think she responded to you in that way when truly you seem like you were her ally?
Yeah, and I think initially, I absolutely was, and I wanted what was best for her, and I did not want her administration thought was scandal, especially so early on. So I wanted to get to her to make sure that she knew what was going on. I can only go off of opinion and what my specific experience with
Sure.
DA Willis is and has been. I can say that I don't think that she takes well to anybody that challenges her, even if unbeknownst to her, the challenge is well-meaning. And I think that maybe she took what I was saying in a weird way as me challenging her, but in fact, I just wanted to protect her and her administration. But then it made me concerned by the way that I was met when I did blow the whistle, like it was a known situation, and that I had just kind of kicked the hornet's nest a little bit.
She was trying to get that new MacBook. She wanted a new MacBook Pro, and you was in the way. You was in the way.
Right.
All right.
And then
so
I will say,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I will say also, in addition to the OJJDP grant, I blew the whistle just shortly after because I noticed something else, and I was like, oh my gosh, seriously, I don't want to be the one to say anything, but I have to, because I was over the junior DA program. So the junior DA program is a crime prevention program based in Fulton County for at-risk youth in Fulton County. And so it's a bridge between community and police, community and law enforcement, community and the judicial system. So the goal is to teach youth about all aspects of the judicial system. We go on trips. So our trips are going to the state capitol, going to the Atlanta Police Training Center, etc. And it's just really important for youth in lower income areas to really like not only get that exposure, but also like bridge that gap, because there's no enemy here, right? Like the police, creating that. And so unfortunately, when the program started, we had this icebreaker where we're sharing out where we're from, what school we go to. And there were several kids there that didn't belong there, unfortunately. They didn't attend Fulton County schools. Some of them didn't even live in the state of Georgia, much less the southeast region of the U.S.,
Wow.
Some of them went to private school. There were kids there that went to Woodward, Pace Academy. Those are schools that cost upwards of $40,000 a year. So we're taking opportunities from youth who genuinely need it, who sometimes we see, unfortunately, on the back end in, unfortunately involved in the juvenile justice system, that we are not using this money properly. And we are instead using it essentially as a daycare for the who's who of Atlanta and elsewhere. There were youth in there from Florida, from Wisconsin. And so it was just concerning. Wow. And that was another aspect that unfortunately I had to share.
Was that a grant as well, or that was a grant?
Yes, it was a federal JAG grant. Yeah, so it was a federal grant, a justice assistance grant for for crime prevention.
I got you. Wow. Okay, so there's a lot of misuse of federal funds that would have come back on you, of course. So you wanted to make sure that Fani Willis was aware, because you thought she would need to know this, because you thought she would, be thankful and say, "Hey, I appreciate you. We weren't using this correct." Lo and behold, it didn't go that way. So now the retaliation, demotion, all that kind of stuff kicks in. Tell us about the investigation. What all happened when you became aware, or where did it go from there?
Sure. So, I obviously I went inside the DA's office. That wasn't extremely helpful or anything. So then I reached out to the Fulton County Human Resources, and ultimately I was connected with the DCRC, which is the Department of Civil Rights and Compliance.
Okay.
And so just kind of made my grievances along the way, hoping that somebody would hear me and listen to me. Obviously, I just wanted to make sure, like, hey, I don't have anything to do with this. I don't want to make sure that it's noted. But also I didn't want to get in trouble either.
No, I totally get it. So we start the investigation, and here, let's just go ahead. Where is it now in 2025? Where is it now?
So now, unfortunately,
I know.
Right. So now, unfortunately, in August, my case was actually kicked out by the lower court. So Judge Scott McAfee is the the judge that was on my case. And if you guys remember, Judge McAfee, he was the same judge that was on the Trump case, and a very well-known person to Fani Willis, as she was his supervisor for many years. He donated to her campaign, and it is my opinion that there was some partiality in the way that my case was handled. And so current day, my case is in the Georgia Court of Appeals awaiting a decision. And, simply all I've asked from the beginning is a trial. I want my day in court. I went from being at the DA's office for over 4 years. I believe that's where I was going to retire. I genuinely loved the work that I did in that office, and the people and citizens that I was able to truly help and affect in a positive way. And unfortunately, because I was passionate about having integrity, my life has been completely thrown upside down in a lot of ways.
I got you. So we're in the Court of Appeals because it was kicked out by Judge McAfee. Any kind of idea when we might hear back, when the final word will be?
I am hopeful and prayerful that it is before the end of the year.
Okay.
The Court of Appeals, they can rush it. I've asked my attorney to ask them to expedite it. And you can request that. And so I have, because I've already waited almost 5 years, and I'd like to,
move on.
Exactly. I'd like to move on. But, I have to say, though, that there has been this has not been a victimless situation. Myself and my family have genuinely went through a great deal just doing the right thing. And I want to have my day in court.
So, okay, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up to us. What does resolution look like? What does making Amanda Timpson whole again look like to you?
Yeah, I think for me, it is getting in front of a jury of my peers in the county that I live in, own a home in, pay taxes in, and just putting all of the details and the chips on the table and allowing them to see the truth. My story in 5 years has never changed. It has been bar for bar the same. I look at documents that I wrote in 2021, 2022, and to the T, not a single thing has changed, because I don't have to think of anything other than the facts. And so I just want them to hear the facts. And I truly believe that the facts will lead to a win on my side. My family and I were financially completely thrown upside down. It was unfortunately right post-COVID. It was 2022, the very beginning of 2022, when I was terminated. And unfortunately, DA Willis made some what I believe the courts would deem as false words about me in the public. Yes, which made it extremely hard for me to get a job. I actually applied for over 1,000 jobs, literally, and I produced this in discovery, over 1,000 jobs to get the job that I have now, because I would be asked constantly about it in interviews. Like, hey, what's this about? And at the time, this is way before, the whole Nathan Wade scandal came up and stuff. So she's looked at as an authoritative figure, as a darling in the Democrat Party, and I'm just me. So anything that's said is deemed as
negative
true.
Word from,
Exactly. And so, it took me a couple of years to get a job back at the same level. I took other jobs because we can't lose our house, but but to get at the same level in the same field as I was in prior to, and so I think that is just that's a starting point. I'll say that much.
No, I got you. So hopefully you'll hear back at the end by the end of the year. So let's just say under your Christmas tree, there's a note from the Georgia Court of Appeals, and it's saying, "Congratulations, Amanda.
I don't want nothing else.
We're going to give you a day of court."
Yes.
And so you're excited about a day in court, please forgive me, because you know that you're going to bring binder right there, and you're going to have your opportunity to tell your story. And you want a jury trial, so we're not even like you want 12 people to hear this, not just a judge. So you have this jury trial, and being made whole is, of course, recognizing that first of all, what was said about you wasn't true, that you were disparaging, you were trying to do the right thing, and she did violate the whistleblower law. I mean, for crying out loud, if nothing else, she retaliated against a whistleblower. That should be pretty straightforward. You get your day in court. Let's just say by a sheer miracle, by this summer coming up, it's all done. You've been made whole. Your family's been made whole, and such like that. What does that look like for you?
I mean, having this, I feel like this trial has shortened my life by way of just stress and stuff. So having that off of me would be huge. I think being able to move forward without that just consistent stress that just sits on your back, sits on your stress or your chest will be amazing. I also want to just back up a little bit if I can.
Okay, sure.
And tell you all that there was mind you, to this day, 11/7/2025, I have not a single negative mark in my personnel file while I was at the DA's office. Mm-hmm. In fact, I have positive things. I have garnered over 30 plus letters of recommendations, employment evaluations, all of these things. I was the victim of a post-termination collusion story where where it was said that I was essentially some dangerous person that was essentially not well and running around the DA's office scaring people or making people scared. And I just wanted to be on this show that I was actually fired 20 minutes after I walked out of the DCRC, the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance at the Fulton County. Mm-hmm. I sat in that office with the director that morning with my fourth formal complaint. And in the time that I was in that office, I received an invite for January 18th, 2022 at 2 or 2:30 p.m. with Fani and Dexter. I told the director, Niger Thomas, at the time that I was scared and I did not, because of the months of retaliation, I did not want to go in that meeting by myself. Mm-hmm. And I asked her, could she come with me or somebody? And she said, I'm not going to be able to be there, but I can have somebody from Fulton County HR come with you. And I said, okay, thank you so much, because I just don't trust anybody at this point. And so she arranged that. I walked out of the meeting. I went to the restroom. I walked back to my desk, and probably 15 minutes from the time I sat at my desk, there was a knock at my door and 7 armed investigators walked me out of the building. Wow. And that's how I was terminated 20 minutes after that. And I have an email chain that literally me talking to Ms. Thomas, hey, I'm walking to your office right now. Hey, we're in the meeting. I sent her an email right after, hey, just 20 minutes after I left your office, I was just terminated. She said, okay, thank you for the development. So there's no wiggle room in what actually happened. I was so terrified because of the months of retaliation. What I told you is light work. Yeah. The months of retaliation that I didn't even feel comfortable at that time sitting across at a table with my boss because I was afraid of what would happen. And so I just think that creating this narrative that I'm some dangerous person, when that has never, ever, ever, nobody on the face of this earth, and definitely in any place that I've ever worked, could say that that is the truth. And so it really, I cried big tears when I read some of these things against me, because I'm like, how am I, at that time I didn't have a job. I'm like, how am I ever going to get hired again? We just bought a house. We're going to lose the house. My son was in 8th grade when this first happened. My son is in college right now.
Yeah. That's
Just to put
wild.
context and the time
for
that we've
sure.
been going through this. Yeah.
So I want to play, if I can play the audio file from November 19th, 2021 to kind of show that post firing smear campaign type of vibe. So here's a clip of Amanda Timpson. And can you give us a little background real quick of
Sure.
this? Go ahead.
So real quick. So November 16th of 2021, my then attorney sent a demand letter to Fani Willis and her administration about them retaliating against me as a whistleblower.
For sure.
After that, there was a lot of what I would characterize, in my opinion, as like trying to clean up in the background. And so one of those cleanups was an email that was asked of one of my supervisors to send by DA Willis and Dexter Bond. And that email was a complete mischaracterization of what had happened. And so when I responded, I said, hey, that never happened.
Right.
But you know what I mean? They were trying to give me additional work, but they were saying, based on our October 2021 meeting with DA Willis and this and that and all this, and it was very formal and it just didn't feel right. And I'm like, I didn't meet with DA Willis in October. What are you talking about? So there was just a lot of things. So I responded to it. And then basically DA Willis was like, oh, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow in my office. You need to either do this or I'll accept your resignation. What was asked of me was humanly impossible. They wanted me to create an entire program in 24 hours. So when we got into her office, you know, it was like a group of 4 people kind of all against me. And then ultimately I just recorded it because I was like, hey, I've made several disclosures to several people. Everybody's lying. I just need to record this. And so this is one of the recordings from that day.
Okay. So let me just play it. Let's go. It's real short.
But I feel like as far as that, like this meeting, I just need to know that, like, as hard as I will go for you, like, just, if nothing else, like, respect and honesty. That's it. Like, and don't throw me out to the wolves because that's not for me. And it's hard for me in this space because I grew up in a way that if something happens like that, you fight back physically. You know what I mean? And so I get emotional because I'm like, I'm grown now.
It's like I want to fight, but I
am grown now.
So, so to piggyback off of partially what Ms. Toole was saying, I think that would be good. You having your own space. I don't know if Ms. Toole you can make a decision now, but you know on that back wall that one office is going to be vacant. That may be a good space for Ms. Timpson if you would like to be in that location.
Okay. Now
so this shows actually what was said in that, what was said about that meeting, about that very part that you just heard. This is what was told in the after firing memo.
Okay. I'm going to read it and then you read the part that's allegedly you.
Okay.
Ms. Timpson made comments during staff meetings with myself and Deputy DA Toole that she wanted to violently attack her previous supervisor and that
I'm from Compton. I don't know how to respond to these emails. I be ready to fight. I want to punch him in the effing head.
Ms. Timpson also expressed in that same meeting that her previous supervisor
made her felt like as a child when adults didn't believe her when certain things were being done to her. And then she says, for the sake of privacy and disclosure of personal events in her life, I'm choosing not to state the exact events that she disclosed.
There we go. All right. So this is an example, and we just heard what you said to Lady Toole and Miss Henry, and none of that. You didn't say anything. I didn't know you was from Compton until I read this. Like, oh yeah, she's from Compton. So why? And this is one of the examples, and there's others as well of I call it revisionist history, where something happened and let's go back and revisit how it was and revise what happened because it doesn't fit a narrative that we're using now moving forward. And And that was pretty commonplace, or you have more examples of that.
Yes. And what has been put out to the public, I have over 32 audio recordings. So at that point, it got to the point where I was like, I can't go nowhere without my phone. I need to have the little record thing right up so I could slap it, because there was so many lies being told. And for me to say like, hey, growing up, I was saying the reason that I was crying is because I don't know how to deal with this in the workplace. This type and this level of retaliation, like this, you know what I mean? Like I'm crying because I don't know what else to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you heard the tail end of it, I said, I'm grown now. You can't do that. I'm just talking about, hey, when I was young, this is how I handled it. I'm grown now. So I get emotional because I don't know what else to do. I'm so overwhelmed at this point. I don't know what to do. And so go ahead.
And I think most people can understand that if they're being gracious, like, yeah, this is a lot. And sure, maybe I wouldn't respond in tears, but that doesn't mean that I can't understand why somebody would be like, yeah, this is a lot going on, because you're giving me a whole bunch, you're doing the most, and it's causing me stress and strain. That makes sense. That's not some revelation knowledge that we can't understand. So, wow.
Right.
All right.
And I will say, like, crying isn't my go-to, right? But it was just so emotional, like day in, day out. Like, honestly, it got to the point where on my way to work, I would get heart palpitations. Like, it was such an anxiety rich environment for every time I go to work. It's like, hey, do this over. I would have my thousands of documents that I just put in alphabetical order that took me days come in their disarray. I got to do it over again. Oh, I'm now have 3 supervisors. Mind you, never a single thing in my personnel file. I've been nominated for things in that office, been asked to help other departments in that office. They're saying now I have 3 supervisors over me, all asking me to do things and finish it by the end of the day because they know it's impossible. Right. And I'm trying to do everything, knowing in the back of my mind that if I lose this job, we lose our home, we lose all of this. So yeah, I was extremely emotional because I felt like I was constantly like being attacked.
I can totally understand that. All right. So prayerfully, you'll get a word back by the end of the year. Let me ask you, worst case scenario, do they give you any kind of gauge on when the Court of Appeals will respond? And does that mean automatically that there's going to be a trial like the next Tuesday? Like,
no, but I mean, I've asked obviously to expedite it. And so I want my trial as soon as possible. But can I say one more thing just about the trial date?
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. So throughout the case, I've already actually gotten a trial date. Okay. So my trial was actually supposed to be May 5th of 2025. And Judge McAfee actually gave me that trial date because Fani and her attorney requested summary judgment. We requested a trial, so they need to.
Got you.
So they have to defend their summary judgment request, right? They were 2+ weeks, I believe it was like 16 days or something like that, late submitting their summary judgment. Okay. So he put it on the trial. Like, okay, you guys, usually it's like default judgment. Okay, so trial. They requested a retroactive timeliness file. So, even though we were 2 weeks past due or whatever, deem us timely. And he did that. And then on top of it, I wrote a letter. I had my son, who I don't like putting in this stuff. I had my son write a letter like, son, please write a letter of what just all this has done to our family. He wrote a letter and my attorney filed a brief. My brief was declined per usual, and theirs was advanced. He allowed them to file 16 days past due. Then they did an additional 35-day extension to respond to us. That was given. And then at the end of everything, I was denied. And if you look through the final motion in my case, it has absolutely nothing to do with any of my material facts. We had 104 material facts with over like everyone has to have documents attached to it. So 104 facts, 104 documents. Altogether, it was more documents. Altogether, we had over 600-page brief. And nothing that I said in those over 600 pages was ever even
brought up.
Brought up. No, it was just like basically what I feel was essentially like a hit piece against me. It was like, hey, she's clearly a problem in the office. That's it. And I'm like, yo, like you didn't see all of the recordings. You didn't see the fact that if I was truly a problem, don't you think they would have put it in my personnel file? My termination letter, my separation letter, my letter to the Georgia unemployment, none of it says anything. And there's places to mark where you could put like, hey, they didn't come to work, they were an issue. Problem. It literally just says laid off or discharged, nothing.
Wow.
So how do they go from that to this lady's crazy? And it's just a lot. And to know that you put yourself out there for something right, and at every step in the way, it seems, in my opinion, that the judicial system is favoring the defendant in my case, because she is the defendant in my case. Correct. Then, it's concerning. It's very concerning.
Wow. Okay. So you did have a trial date, but that got muddied up. So we're hoping for a new one.
Yes.
If you got one, I'm sorry, if the Georgia Court of Appeals came through, do you think it would be before the summer, or when do you think it might be?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I think that it can be set pretty quickly because, like I said, our last one was set within less than 3 weeks, I believe, from the time that it was like 3 to 6 weeks. So it was very soon. So I'm hoping that when they make the decision that the trial is quick. I will say also that, we do plan to ask for Judge McAfee to recuse himself and get another judge though. Yeah, I think that's for the best.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, Amanda, we're praying that everything goes well. I'm looking forward to you coming back and giving us your great smile and telling us that you can retire the binder because you've had your trial.
I want to put it through the shredder.
Girl, don't do that. Don't shred it. Don't shred it. So now this let me ask you this though. This type of trial, is it meant to be, is it like a 2-week trial? Do you see this type of trial being, well, it's not going to be YSL level. So we know it's not going to be that bad. What do you think it will actually be no matter, even if it wasn't you? How long will this trial be?
My attorney said because there's so many witnesses and so many facts in my case, that it would probably be anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. And so it's not going to be too long, but it would definitely be, not a 2-day trial, a 3-day trial. It would definitely be probably a week to 2 weeks. So, yeah.
All right. You going to come back and let us know what happens?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you letting me run my mouth and say everything. But I do think it's important, we all live here and, our kids are here. And I think it's important that we all know who our elected officials are and who's running our cities and communities.
I agree 100%. Amanda Timpson, thank you so much for your patience and coming back over here. I know you're tired of this, so I'm praying and hopefully the next time we talk, it'll be in the rearview mirror. We can just talk about what you're doing moving forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming through. I appreciate you. And thank you all so much for watching. And please let Amanda know we appreciate her. Comment down below what you think. And of course, I'll leave all the links to everything that we were talking about in the description so you can kind of follow along with what's happening. Amanda, thank you again for being a great guest.
Thank you.
I'll see you real soon. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Witt Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.